Hey y'all, it's Josh McQueen from Mad River Outfitters, guide and shipping clerk. Oh, let's do that over. Hey y'all, it's Captain Josh McQueen here from Mad River Outfitters, guide and shipping liaison, and today I'm pretty excited to talk to you about the top 5 Great Lakes steelhead tips. Number 5. All right, so let's jump into the first one, number 5, presentation. I don't know if that's in the right order or if I should have presentation higher up the list, but it is really a big key element. And majorly the 3 things that we do to target steelhead, at least in Ohio and Lake Erie, Pennsylvania, New York, is nymphing, swinging flies, and stripping streamers for steelhead. And really at any one of those levels, it's important to present right. I would say, I would bullet point each one of them like this. With the nymphing, I would make sure that you have a drag-free drift. It's always important to make sure that there's 0 pressure or line tension on that indicator when you're making that drift. You really just want that drift to look like you took the end of the fly line, cut the leader, and let the indicator drift down the stream on its own. That's how it should look. With swinging flies, know your tips. And I don't mean tips like these steelhead tips, I mean your sink tips. Know the depth that each one of them reaches based on the length and the weight of that tip, and make sure that you know at each angle and current speed. Do some research and really find out what depth that fly is going to go at as you use that tip to approach steelhead swinging flies. And finally, within presentation, I would look at when you're stripping those streamers, depending on the water temperature and also depending on the water color, how much action you put into your fly and how much speed you put. And are the strips going to be greater or less? And that's all based on, of course, just the water color and also the water temperature, which is something that we'll dive into later. Number 4, dress appropriately. Too often that I see clients or friends come out, and I've even done it myself, where you come out and you just don't have the right gear on for the weather conditions. And this is obviously going to kill your fishing in so many ways. If it's super cold out and you have your breathable waders on and you didn't layer right, you don't have those wool socks, or maybe some under layering, would be like capeline or something like that, some sort of wader lining pants to keep you warm. It's going to put you out of the game quick. Make sure that you have the right boots on for the conditions. I know here in the Great Lakes, especially in the Lake Erie streams where we have a lot of shale, I prefer studded rubber bottom boots. That's my go-to. I like to put a lot of studs in there. Also, you can get away with felt, or even some boots have studded felt still, but make sure you have some studs in your boots, or at least felt at a minimum. Don't come out to these rivers with just a rubber bottom, because it's just too slick to walk and you're going to go down. And ultimately, obviously, rain gear too. Hats and rain gear, whether you need a winter hat or maybe it's up in the upper 40s or something and you just need a good waxed canvas cap and some Gore-Tex or good Toray rain gear to keep you dry. It's important to stay dressed appropriately. Steelhead fishing, obviously we're not out here doing steelhead fishing in the Great Lakes when it's in the 80s, so you got to have the right gear to keep you going. Number 3. All right, we're going to jump right into number 3 on our Great Lakes steelhead tips, and that would be confidence and mobility. And I'm just going to try to dive into this and not go overboard, but what I mean is, by confidence, having confidence in the setup you have, and by mobility, moving around. Too often I see folks get set up on one spot, and maybe it's a confidence spot for them, and they've found fish there before, and so they want to stay there and keep fishing the same spot over and over and over. But that's usually not the most productive way to fish throughout the day. It's a good idea to be able to keep moving through the river, through the sections that you're working, and know where those fish will be based on the water conditions, and also to have confidence in your setup. Make sure that your setup is appropriate for the area you're fishing. If you're nymphing, make sure that your indicator the depth is set right for the hole that you're in. And also, if you're, say, swinging streamers or stripping streamers, make sure that that rig's set up right. Do I have the right tip? Do I have the right leader? Do I have the right distance between my flies and my split shot, or between my fly and my sink tip? And have that confidence in your rig. And if you don't know already, do the research and find out how that rig should be set up for the area you're in. That way that you can move thoroughly through each piece of water that you're fishing. And again, I think that that's kind of set us up for point number 2. Number 2, So now we'll just jump right into point number 2, which is the water conditions. I made this the second to last point, basically second to top, as far as just really the temperature of the water, the color of the water, and the flow rates of the water. The 3 big key things we're always looking at with steelhead fishing. You know, we're probably going to do more videos in the future on diving into really covering how to adapt to different conditions in steelheading. But if I was just to bullet point a few when it comes to water conditions, I would say when I'm looking at the water color, if it's dirtier water, I'm using brighter flies. If it's clearer water, I'm using a lighter colored, more kind of pale or pastel type of coloration, no matter if I'm using nymphing patterns or streamer patterns. I don't typically use really bright colored flies in clear water. And again, in the dirty water, obviously you got to have some visibility, maybe some UV yarn and those scrambled eggs, maybe a lot of flash and high vis chartreuse or orange or pink colors in some of those streamers to get those fish's attention in that dirty water. When it comes to water temperature, always note that steelhead are going to be in deeper, slower areas. When the water's colder, they'll start to move into some of those shallower, faster moving areas when the water's warmer. And finally, the flow rates. It's important always to use usgs.gov and their website to go to see all the different rivers and the stream data. There's real-time stream data on their website that you can go and see what each one of the rivers are. And really just learn those numbers, learn when those rivers are right, and every river's got a different number that it hits that's usually ideal fishing. And so that's probably the main bullet points on water conditions for sure. Number 1. And that brings us to the final tip, tip number 1, that I think is the most important, is to hire a guide. What you can learn from a guide, you know, we can sit here at Mad River Outfitters and give you tip after tip after tip on YouTube video after YouTube video, and that's great. But I can't show you what we do any better than I can show it to you on the water, in the person, really dealing with the actual elements. I've seen countless people over the years that have driven up and spent a lot of time and money on hotels and food and gas to go north without a guide, and it's taken them 12, 15, 20 trips to learn what they can learn with in a day or two with us, or learn even what might take them 8, 9, 10 hours of YouTube sitting around watching what they can learn in 1 hour of just being on the water. You know, coming out with us, guides here at Mad River Outfitters for steelhead fishing, we can dial you in and just give you so much great quality information and education over a full day steelhead trip that I know you'll find worth it. So that's it for our top 5 Great Lakes steelhead tips. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe. It really helps us out a lot. And also, if you've got some tips that you want to share with us, leave them below in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Give me a check.
Chickity, chickity check, microphone.
And one more time.
Chickity check, microphone check 3. You're tuned to the sounds of the DRE.
Yeah.
Chickity check, microphone check 1.